We definitely saw some activity in the ecosystem, if you will, this morning, or I guess maybe overnight or something for some people. Pretty crazy stuff. I got an email in my inbox about a initiative from Hedera, and it turned out to not be true. It turned out to be a hack. Hedera put out a tweet or a X or a Zeet or whatever we want to call it now. Marketing at Hedera email has been compromised. They don't open any emails. So it's basically an email went to everybody, and then they put out another email to ignore any links in the other email. But I don't know how sophisticated it was, or how extensive it was. I think that we're kind of waiting on a kind of a breakdown from Hedera on that. But I just wanted to kind of, let people know at the start of the show that if you do see an email in your inbox from Hedera about I think they called it the Hedera DeFi suite or something like that. Basically the email would take you to a fake Hedera website, and it was asking you to enter your wallet and all that kind of stuff. Very unfortunate. Apparently people are saying that it was Hedera's HubSpot account that was compromised. So as far as I know, I don't know if the actual systems or whatever were compromised. It seems like just a HubSpot account that was connected to send marketing emails may have been compromised. So, but again, we don't know. It's just kind of what I've heard. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It's not good for the Hedera brand, being the trust layer of the internet, But I mean, we see this all the time in Web3. So many people and so many networks get, hacked or socially engineered. To be honest, a lot of the time it just comes down to people not using two-factor authentication. That's what it comes down to. And I will say this, especially to the executives out there, because I know, you guys are notorious for this, but use two-factor authentication on your accounts, for God's sake. You've got the Google authenticator app, all that kind of stuff. Don't use email for your two-factor authentication. Don't use text message for your two-factor authentication. Do it properly. The general rule of thumb is the harder it is to log into the website, the more secure your login is. And I know it's a pain, but please do it, because these are you can have these really sophisticated kind of attacks, but sometimes it just boils down to social engineering. And sometimes social engineering is literally just, messing around with somebody. Yeah. Multi-factor authentication. I think it's a new thing for some people, but yeah. If you have an organization and anyone connected to your accounts or your executives or whatever are not using that, you're not going to make it. You're going to have all sorts of problems. And just being honest, executives are notorious for this. So please take this as a lesson. And I mean, it's just important to highlight in Hedera, if this is the secure network, we really got to make sure that is the case. But I wanted to maybe say to people, we don't know exactly what this is about yet. My assumption is it's something relatively simple. Seems a HubSpot. HubSpot is just a marketing tool, so I don't think it's super extensive, but again, stay vigilant, but not blowing stuff out of proportion. HBAR Daily Show, appreciate it. Thank you. Shout out. IPEX, appreciate you. Yeah, we had IPEX on last episode. It was great to touch base. Multi-factor authentication. Okay, time for a bit of a lesson. So basically, multi-factor authentication is when you sign into a website. Here, let me try to pull up a little bit of a piece here. Multi-factor authentication. So as we consult with Google here, multi-factor authentication, it's a multi-step account login process that requires users to enter one or more information than just a password. So when you go to sign in, right, and you go to the website and it says, give us your email, give us your password to log in. Before you can access the website, what it requires you to do is then say, enter a secret code that only you know to continue logging in. So that code ideally is stored offline on a device using like an authenticator app, like the Google Authenticator app or something. It's basically usually a 6-digit number that refreshes. So what that means is you can only log into my account if you have my phone and have access to that code that changes every 60 seconds. Other methods are like logging into GitHub. The GitHub app gives you a code. But the idea here is that you need multiple devices, multiple ways to access your account. So if someone got my username and someone got my password to my email and tried to log in, they would still have to get my phone to get the code to log in. And so this is where the problem lies, is if you are not using that and someone gets your username or password, they're good to go. And that's where most of these scams come from. If a Discord gets hacked or if an email gets hacked or whatever it is, most of the time, I would say probably all the time, it's because they don't have multi-factor authentication. And you know, that's basically the quick lesson on that. Six Figure Crypto, shout out, appreciate you. Yeah, so that's a little refresher on multi-factor authentication, but I think the most important thing here is just in general in Web3, like that's like multi-factor authentication is a Web2 thing, kind of like encompasses so much of what we do. But when we talk about specifically Web3 and kind of specifically like what this, you know, hack or whatever it is that happened this morning with Hedera, the real issue is when you get that email, the purpose of it is to have you go to a website that looks exactly like Hedera. And when you go to the website, then you click a link and it asks you to, you know, enter your seed phrase or do those types of things. And this is like, you need to remember this. If anything asks you to give your seed phrase or private key at all, never, ever, ever do it. And this goes for even legitimate stuff. Like if Hashpack asks it, if anybody asks it, do not do it. Take a minute, step back and ask. Right. So for example, I'll give you a concrete example. Let's say you're on Kabila's website or Blade's website or Hashpack's website or whatever it might be. And you're asked to enter your private key. Take a minute, step back, go to official support and ask them and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. Is this right? And most of the time they'll say, hey, yeah, it's the official website. You're just adding your wallet. Here's the steps, tips to make sure you're secure. But you can never be too careful. You just really can't. And a telltale sign is about intention, right? So if you have the intention to set up your wallet or do something, you're usually okay. You usually understand what you're doing. But if you're in the headspace where that's not your intention and you're just presented with it like, oh, enter your keys, exit, get out of there, right? If it's being put on you and you didn't expect it, get out of there, exit, right? Don't do anything. Also too, especially if you're made to feel rushed or if there's a sense of urgency. Again, like if you're ever in a situation connecting to an application or a wallet or anything like that, and you feel like pressured or rushed or something like that, that's the last thing any of those products are going to want you to feel. That's the last thing Hedera is going to want you to feel. So general rule of thumb, never, ever, 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 ever enter your keys for any reason ever at all. Always be incredibly careful. And yes, I know that sometimes to get access to your stuff on a new wallet, you do have to enter your private key or your seed phrase, but just be careful. That's why these applications have support, but just understand the risks, because if someone gets those keys, and it's very, very easy to get them, right? Like just a quick example on Apple products. If you copy and paste something, like there's a great feature where if I copy something on my iPhone, I can paste it on my Mac, but that means it's floating up around in there somewhere. So there's so many different attack vectors, even having your key on your computer or in 1Password or whatever it might be. Like there's just always is going to be risk. So just keep that in mind, because if someone gets your key, it's over.